I believe they're reorganizing the roadside violations, the actual violations, over 2,000 violations, and they're going to consolidate that.
Yeah, this has long been a problem. They're going to take all these violations and put them into groups because you can look at any one problem with a vehicle, and there's 4 or 5 different ways that a roadside inspector could cite it. For instance, if the brakes weren't working, they could cite it under several different code sections. And it kind of makes sense to put them all into one place. And then you have a group of those violations. That'll help them too to track, hey, which groups have the strongest correlation to crashes? Because right now, it's very hard where there's so many different ways to cite a violation. You don't have enough data on each violation to really track it to crashes,
It
right?
dilutes that directional cause and effect. And that's one of the first things I do usually is group brake violations. There's several of them. I group them together. So, or is this a tire issue? Do we have a brake issue? There's just so many violations. I think this will be a good one too, from my perspective again. But they're
Yep.
keeping the actual codes and what they're looking at. They're just grouping them for the calculations. Isn't that correct?
That's right. And the next step is really interesting. What they proposed is that they really readjust the severity weights assigned to these violations. So let's say you have several violations within a particular group, that will count once within that group. That really sort of simplifies, hey, if I've got 5 different ways that the driver didn't annotate the log correctly, that's really one violation, right? Not 5.
He's got a log violation. Right. That was what example I was going to do. The 11 of 14 and 70, he could be off in all of those, but that's going to be an HOS violation in general. So
That's right. Driving past the allowable hours, right? You bet.
I think you started to hint about the weighting and the simplifying the points assigned to a violation code.
As you well know, John, what they have done or did initially was assign a severity weight to every violation on a scale of 1 to 10. And that weight is intended to indicate the severity of violation, either in its propensity to cause crashes or to impact crash severity. So an example is if there's a burned out headlight, it carries 6 points as a violation. If there's a missing mud flap, it only carries 1 point. What they've proposed here is to simplify this, that virtually every violation will only count 1 point, with the exception being violations that are so severe that they result in a vehicle being placed out of service, or if they're violations that are on the list of disqualifying violations. So, for instance, a driver who convicted of reckless driving, that's a disqualifying violation, or driving 15 miles per hour or more over the speed limit. Those, the out of service violations and the disqualifying violations, will carry 2 points. The rest of them will only carry 1 point. A headlamp will carry 1 point, where it used to carry 6. The mud flap will carry 1 point, currently carries 1. So those will be treated the same. And that'll be interesting to see where that takes us.
Will they run in tandem for a little while to give everybody a feel for what their CSA scores? Do we know the plan for how they'll ultimately implement this?
Fleets who register for access with DOT can get access to their data in the system, and they can see 2 views today. They can see their scoring under the current system. They can see their scoring under the proposed system, so they can sort of see, hey, what's going to be the impact of this thing? And that's a little bit of a trial balloon. That's as if to say, hey, before we pull the pin on this, will it explode? Will fleets go, hey, this is, having a really dramatic impact. We think it's unfair. We think it's inaccurate. That's really the mechanism to do that. And I don't know about you, John. So far, I haven't heard a lot from fleets. It seems to be a bit of a nothing burger, to be honest. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I'm not getting too much negative feedback and not even worried about it. We got the same issues that we're trying to work on, and we're just moving forward.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
a big deal and I think some of it may just reduce some of the frustration and with what points is this specific violation is, and this just seems a little more clear and easier to consume from a fleet perspective.
I think that's exactly it. I think they decided, hey, we're getting a lot of criticism and scrutiny, whether or not something should be 5 points or 7. What matters to us based on our data is which fleets are accumulating points. And so this tells them which fleets are accumulating points. Now, in the end, some people might say, hey, I had an accumulation of really minor things, and I shouldn't be compared against a fleet who had a single instance of something very major and be perceived as less safe. But in the end, that we're probably not going to see that. We're probably going to see, hey, these are the fleets that are accruing violations in mass, and it speaks to whether or not they have programs in place to prevent it.